He hid his wealth to find real love. She believed he had nothing except honesty. But when the truth came out, one question shattered everything. You pretended to be poor just to marry me. On the dangerous American frontier, an Apache woman must decide. Was this love a lie or a test of the heart? Stay till the end, because the final choice changes both their lives forever. To subscribe for powerful frontier stories. Like and share this story with someone who believes in real love. A comment below: was he right to hide the truth, or was she right to walk away? The evening sun dipped low over the wide American frontier, painting the land in gold and shadow. A small wooden cabin stood alone near the river, surrounded by tall grass and silence. Inside that quiet space lived a truth waiting to be spoken. The Apache woman stood firm, her posture proud, her eyes carrying both strength and pain. For months, she believed the man beside her was poor, a wandering soul with little more than honesty to offer. Now whispers had reached her ears, and the calm of her world began to crack as reality demanded answers. "You pretended to be poor just to marry me?" she asked, her voice controlled but heavy with emotion. The question hung between them like a loaded moment neither could escape. She had survived betrayal before and learned to protect her heart fiercely. The man she loved had never acted like someone hiding wealth, yet the truth was undeniable. Land deeds, gold claims, a respected family name, all hidden behind worn clothes and silence. Her trust felt shaken, not because of money, but because honesty mattered more than riches in her world. He took a slow breath, knowing this moment would decide everything. "I did," he admitted quietly, meeting her gaze without fear. "But not to deceive you, for gain." He explained how he had seen relationships destroyed by power and wealth, how people changed once gold entered the room. He wanted to be chosen for who he was, not for what he owned. The frontier had taught him survival, but love had taught him caution. He feared being loved for his name instead of his soul. She listened without interrupting, her expression unreadable. In Apache tradition, actions spoke louder than words. She remembered the cold nights when he shared his last blanket, the days he worked beside her people without complaint, the way he never tried to control her choices. Those memories clashed with the truth now revealed. Wealth could bring comfort, but lies, even well-intended, left scars. Her silence was not weakness. It was judgment forming, measured and deliberate. The wind moved through the trees as she finally spoke. "You feared gold would speak louder than your heart," she said. "But hiding truth is still hiding." Her words were calm, not angry, which made them heavier. She explained that in her culture, trust was sacred. Once broken, it demanded courage to rebuild. She wasn't offended by his wealth, but by the test he placed upon her love without asking her consent to be tested. He lowered his eyes, accepting her words fully. "I was wrong to decide for you," he said. "But every day I lived as that poor man, my feelings were real. Nothing about my love was an act. He spoke of choosing a simple life even when he didn't have to, of rejecting pride to learn humility. The frontier stripped men down to their truth, and he had tried to meet her as an equal, not a master." She stepped outside the cabin, looking across the open land where freedom and hardship coexisted. The United States frontier was unforgiving, yet it rewarded honesty and resilience. She thought about the future, one shaped not just by tradition, but by choice. The man followed her, not to persuade, but to stand beside her. That small act reminded her why she trusted him in the first place. He didn't demand forgiveness. He waited. After a long pause, she spoke again. "A man is judged by how he walks when no one is watching," she said. "You walked with respect, even while hiding your truth." She acknowledged the contradiction, his lie and his integrity living side by side. Life was rarely simple. People were rarely only one thing. What mattered was whether they took responsibility when truth surfaced. She turned to face him fully. "If you wanted real love," she said, "then you must accept real consequences." She explained that trust would need time to heal. There would be no instant forgiveness. no pretending the truth didn't hurt. But she also admitted something deeper, that her feelings were genuine, not built on poverty or wealth, but shared hardship and mutual respect. He nodded, relief and humility washing over him. "I'll wait," he said, "however long it takes." For the first time, his wealth felt meaningless compared to the quiet possibility of rebuilding trust. He understood now that love wasn't proven through tests, but through truth offered freely, even when it risked loss. As the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, they stood together without promises, without gold, without illusion. Two worlds shaped by different paths, choosing honesty over fear. The frontier stretched endlessly before them, uncertain and challenging, but real. And this time, so was their love. Night settled over the frontier slowly, wrapping the land in silence, broken only by distant coyotes and the crackle of a small fire. The Apache woman sat near the flames, her thoughts heavier than the darkness around her. Truth had a way of changing everything, and tonight it had changed the man she loved. Not in who he was, but in how she saw him. Across from her, he remained quiet, respecting the space she needed. Wealth had never separated them before, yet the secret now stood between them like an invisible wall. Morning came with cold air and clarity. She rose early, preparing to leave for her people's camp. He watched her without stopping her, knowing this choice had to be hers alone. Before mounting her horse, she turned. "I need time," she said simply. "Time to understand what was real." He nodded, offering no promises, no excuses. Only patience. As she rode away, he felt the weight of his choice more than ever before. Days passed. Life on the frontier didn't pause for broken trust. He worked the land, repaired fences, and helped neighbors, just as he always had. But now, he did it openly, no longer hiding behind a false image. News of his true status spread quickly, yet he refused to change how he lived. No fine clothes, no display of power. He waited, not knowing if waiting would be enough. At the Apache camp, she shared the truth with her elders. One elder finally spoke. "A man who hides gold may still show his heart," he said. "But only actions after truth reveal who he truly is." She realized then that this moment wasn't just about love. It was about character revealed under pressure. Weeks later, conflict arrived at the edge of the frontier. A group of land seekers threatened both settlers and Apache territory, driven by greed and entitlement. Tension rose and fear spread quickly. When violence seemed inevitable, the man stepped forward, not as a rich landowner but as a bridge. He used his influence to negotiate peace, protecting Apache land without demanding ownership or reward. He stood publicly beside her people, risking reputation and profit alike. Word reached her quickly. She watched from a distance as he chose principle over power. For the first time since learning the truth, her heart softened. This was the moment that mattered. Not what he hid before, but what he chose now that nothing was hidden. She rode back to the cabin at sunset, finding him repairing the same broken fence he had fixed a dozen times before. When he saw her, he stood slowly, unsure of what this visit meant. She didn't rush her words. "You could have used your wealth to take more," she said. "Instead, you used it to protect." She told him she had watched, listened, and learned. Trust, she explained, was not restored through apologies, but through consistency. "I didn't pretend to be poor to control you," he said quietly. "I did it because I feared losing you before I ever had you." She acknowledged that fear, but reminded him that love built on fear alone could never stand. Then she surprised him by adding, "But love built on truth, even after mistakes, can still grow." They spoke long into the night, not as lovers trying to convince one another, but as equals laying everything on the table. He promised never to hide behind silence again. She promised not to judge love solely by one mistake, but by a lifetime of choices. Neither asked for perfection, only honesty. In the days that followed, life slowly returned to balance. She didn't move in immediately. She didn't forgive instantly. But she returned often, watching how he lived now that the truth was known. The man who once hid his wealth now carried it lightly, understanding that real value lay in respect, not possession. She made her decision. I didn't fall in love with a poor man. One evening, she said, standing beneath a wide frontier sky filled with stars. And I didn't fall in love with a rich one. She looked at him steadily. I fell in love with a man who walked beside me when he had nothing and stood for me when he had everything. He took her hand, not as an owner, not as a savior, but as a partner. There were no grand ceremonies, no gold rings displayed for approval, just a shared path forward, built on truth earned the hard way. On the American frontier, where land was taken and hearts were tested, their story became quiet proof that real love wasn't found by hiding who you are, but by revealing it, even when the risk was everything. And this time, nothing stood between them except the future they chose together. The cool frontier morning carried the promise of a new beginning. The Apache woman stood by the river, where doubt once weighed heavily on her heart. Now there was calm. She turned to the man beside her, no longer hiding behind poverty or wealth, only standing in truth. What remained between them was not suspicion, but choice. The days that followed reshaped them both. He learned that love is not proven through tests, but through transparency. She learned that one mistake does not erase a lifetime of respect. Trust, once fractured, had been rebuilt through consistency, patience and action rather than words. Together, they walked the hard path of frontier life. The land that once tempted greed became a place of balance. He used his resources not to claim power, but to create peace between settlers and the Apache people. His name came to represent fairness instead of fortune, and her strength became the voice that guided every decision. One quiet evening, beneath a sky filled with stars, she spoke with certainty. I chose you when you had nothing, she said. And I choose you now, knowing everything. There was no demand, no condition, only unity. He took her hand, understanding that love given freely carried greater value than any wealth he possessed. Their story was never written in gold or marked by conquest. It lived in the way two worlds learned to walk side by side, guided by honesty and respect. On the vast American frontier, where survival tested every bond, they proved that real love is not found in what is hidden, but in what is courageously revealed. And as the sun rose over open land, their future stood clear, built not on illusion, but on truth shared together.